And welcome back to Clutch Time. Today we are just talking about Hoopsteria and really just reflecting on some of the big games and just some of the big moments that have taken place in this tournament thus far. And so let's go ahead, let's jump straight into it. And so just looking at the bracket and starting with the East region, I think that the fact that Duke went down to St. Mary's the way that they did, I think that that was just a shocker to me. And the fact that this was a Duke team that had been in a situation where Cooper Flag had been in foul trouble, been able to overcome that. You got to give St. Mary's a ton of credit for taking advantage of that and moving on. And then I think really the story of the tournament in the East region for me has been SMU. And I think that a player that not a lot of people have had him on his radar or have on their radar, and that is Maury Washington. I think that Maury Washington has been terrific for SMU. The fact that he's just been so dominant in the post, and it's funny because we talk so much about some of these elite big men out there, whether it's Lemarian Sherwood, whether it is the Michigan bigs that they have, and then it's with Maury Washington to see just how impactful he has been in this tournament. I think that he's really put himself on the map. And then with Louisville, I think it's been terrific watching Louisville play, and I've been really impressed with just what I'm seeing here from Loftus and Pooh Lewis. And you're seeing a picture here and an image from yesterday's game against the Maryland Terps, and that essentially pretty much describes it. I mean, I think that Louisville just executed so well, getting open shots and things like that. But look, Pooh Lewis, he's the real deal. Can't wait to see what is going to happen here in this next round as they are set to take on SMU. And so next, I think probably the player of the tournament for the first two rounds had to be CKC. I think that CKC really came out on a mission. And when you're talking about, a top pick in this upcoming draft, and if he helped his stock, I mean, I think that his stock is pretty much where it is. I do think that the way that he played over the first couple rounds, it just was more eye-opening, I think. And so I think it just really validates what you already knew about CKC and his ability to score at a high level. And so, there's always going to be some other questions with CKC, and that is obviously going to be defensively. Can he be that guy at the next level? Next, as far as this team is concerned, he's going to go to a better team in the SWBA. And so how he fits in at that next destination with his usage rate not necessarily being as high as it was at Maryland, I think that that's going to be interesting. But make no mistake about it, CKC scoring 68 points in two rounds was spectacular. The way that he did it, spectacular. So got to give a ton of credit out there to CKC and his ability to score the basketball. And I think he actually was part of one of the biggest upsets too in that East region when you look at it, because I don't think that anybody really thought that Maryland was going to be able to get past Villanova. So definitely part of the shocker of the East region right there. Unfortunately, they ran against a tougher Louisville team. And so next up, wanted to go ahead and shift focus here and go to the other side of the bracket. And so, look, I think that the game of the tournament probably was Iowa versus Arizona. I thought that that was a spectacular game, and it really lived up to everything that we wanted out of that game. And I think that the fact that, we got a chance to see, a freshman big man in Corey Yams. And I love the fact that he didn't get a double-double, but he was still impactful in that game, being a connector, moving the basketball at a critical moment, and just helping his team get past Iowa. And just a lot of people thought that Iowa was going to be a team that could be reckoned with in this tournament, and they certainly were. They were just a second away from moving on. But like I said, Corey Yams, look, I love the fact that he was ready for that matchup, came into it, knew that it was just going to be more than about him and just being an ultimate team player. And that's really what helped Arizona move on. And so got to give him a ton of credit, got to give Arizona a ton of credit. I think that that game against Alabama is going to be great here in the Southern region. But yeah, that's one of my key takeaways there is just that was probably the game of the tournament thus far. And so next, just kind of going down here and looking at the West region. And so for me, I mean, it continues to be around UCLA and just what is UCLA going to do. Jalen Snow, we talk about him often. LaGerald Carroll, we talk about him often. And I think that that's the best duo in the country right there as far as a backcourt duo. I mean, some would argue maybe they are not the top, but I think that they are. And, I just think that it's going to be an interesting game against Davidson. I think that they've looked good thus far. And, so far, not only are they knocking down shots, but they're defending at a high level. And so let's see if that continues on against Davidson. San Diego State, look, I've been very impressed with the way that they've been cutting people up. And I think that the way that they won their game, they were literally, that was probably the second, I'd say, game of the tournament there. And I just think with Gonzaga, I was disappointed that, even though Caden Shipp was hurt in that game, that they didn't get Caden Shipp a touch towards the end of that game. I thought that he definitely deserved a touch to see if he could possibly win that game for him. And I think that that was another one of those games where we look at it and we look at the clock management, we look at the execution, and I think that that really cost Gonzaga. But I'd say that that was the second best game of the tournament with just how that one played out. Caden Shipp hitting a big shot there, putting them in position. They had a chance to possibly win the game and dribbled it down. And just I thought it was poor execution there. But anyway, I mean, I thought that they had a great tournament. I thought that Caden Shipp had a really good one. And just unfortunate the way that they ended up losing or whatnot. And so we'll see what happens here between the winner of UCLA and Davidson. I think that whoever moves on, that's going to be a good game against San Diego State. Then lastly, going over here to this Midwest region, and man, you got to give Xavier a ton of credit for the way that they took care of Michigan State yesterday. I thought that they jumped all over them and really just dictated the way that the game was played. And with Illinois, very impressed with what we are seeing from D'Angelo Jordan. I think that he's playing spectacular basketball at this point in time. And really, that's what Hoopsteria is all about. You just want to be playing your best game at this time of the year. And so certainly I think that that's going to be a terrific game. Can't wait to see that in this Midwest region. And so you guys let me know what you guys are thinking about in the comments as far as, what was the best game thus far in Hoopsteria. Was it that Arizona game? Was it the game with Gonzaga? What was the biggest upset of the tournament thus far for you? And as far as just, these non-stars, again, like guys that we just really haven't talked about, who has been the player that has really stood out? Has it been a player like Maury Washington? Has it been Duval? Like, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about these players that really have not been talked about a lot, but are really starting to make a name for themselves here in Hoopsteria. So let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, see the game and be the game. I'll see you guys on the next one. All right. Peace.